All right, check the mic. We're live. Week 11 instant reaction time. We just saw the very end of the Broncos getting the win over the Kansas City Chiefs to move to 9-2. Bo Nix and the Broncos do it again. A game-winning field goal to win 22-19. Remind everybody, we go game by game tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. We touch on all the stuff, every game in detail. We'll touch on everything. High level right now, Sam, your initial reaction to the Broncos getting the win here.
Yeah, I mean, I think Denver's defense did a good job on Mahomes, on the Chiefs' offense. Generally, they gave themselves a chance. Again, the Denver offense, Bo Nix, they hadn't been amazing throughout the game, but in the fourth quarter, that's when the magic happens. And a couple of massive key plays in that final drive. You have the 3rd and 15 conversion, and then you have, for some reason, like we need a play. We've got to come up with something big. Let's just loft the prayer to Troy Franklin on a corner route. Like, I mean, perfect throw.
Don't act surprised.
Troy Franklin made the catch. I have no earthly idea what would make you think that that was the go-to play at that moment in time, but that was the one they needed.
Don't act surprised. We are a pro Troy Franklin show here, Sam. You and I. That was a great play by him. And look, Bo Nix, he did it, man. Like, he made some huge throws. There was a point in the game I thought Kansas City started to get their rhythm, at least keep the ball away from Denver. But when, I think Denver started well and they finished really strong. And it's an interesting narrative this year. Now, the 5th straight one-score game that Kansas City has lost, where Denver has owned the fourth quarter and owned those close games, and now putting a massive, difference between them and the Chargers and Chiefs in that division.
Yeah, huge result for them. I mean, if Kansas City had won, they would have been right in the thick of it for the division race. They would have been able to overhaul it. Now it's like, it's not done, but it's pretty hard to see how they're going to overhaul Denver for the top of this division, even with the rest of the season left to play. And Kansas City's probably going to have to focus on a wild card and going through the hard route through the playoffs.
The Chiefs are 5-5. They've got the Colts coming to town next week. So literal season on the line. They're like 2 games out of the final playoff spot now because the Jaguars have the tiebreaker. There's a lot going on in Kansas City, and I hope all the Broncos fans show up tomorrow morning to relive the win and enjoy it. Incredible game. That defense made huge plays when they needed to once again. And Bo Nix in the offense, huge plays when they needed to move to 9-2. Broncos and Patriots now currently sitting atop. And the Colts, right? Yeah. I forget where they are. They're all 9-2. No, Broncos, Patriots sitting atop at 9-2. They haven't had buys yet. What's next? Where are we going next? The other huge 4:00 game, the Rams get the win over the Seattle Seahawks. A hard-fought back-and-forth game, but it was the turnovers, man. 4 interceptions again by Sam Darnold. Even after all that, Seattle still had an opportunity to try to get there for the long drive to get a final field goal, but just couldn't get close enough as far as field goal range goes.
I think that's going to be my overall takeaway from the game, that despite a Sam Darnold implosion, or the closest that he's come since the last implosion against the Rams, they put up 400 yards of offense and they had a chance to win it right at the death. Didn't quite get it done. He was wide and short, I think, from 61, but at least they had a shot at it. And 61 is, it's a doable thing. And they had a drive at the end to get it done. Like, the other elements of Seattle's team still played really well. Jackson Smith and Jigba was still fantastic. Like, some of their receivers made plays. The run game had some plays as well. And the defense made a ton of plays against the Rams. So it's like they had it. It's just you had a game from Darnold where he went pretty close to full-on meltdown. Some of those picks were extremely ugly, very uncharacteristic relative to what Darnold's done so far this year. That part's bad. And the fact that it keeps happening against the Rams is also bad, for the reason that, number one, they're in your division. You got to see them twice. And number two, they might be in the playoffs as well. So you're going to have to go through the Rams. But the fact that they still could have won the game is a good thing.
Yeah, we'll go through all of the Sam Darnold against the Rams numbers and what we've seen over the last 2 years, particularly the last 2 games. Didn't get sacked, but the under pressure interceptions, got hit on at least one, and the turnovers were absolutely the difference in the game. It's interesting where you're coming out on that, a 2-point game in a game where Darnold had the 4 picks. You could honestly compare it to, say, the Houston game on Monday Night Football, where they gave the Texans 14 or 15 possessions. That's double what they should have in a game, and the defense still held it. Couldn't hold it here against a good Rams team, but yeah, two evenly matched teams where those turnovers were absolutely the difference. But credit the Rams, their defense, for making those plays and taking advantage. Devontae Adams only had one catch, but he's an absolute cheat code once they get down to the goal line. His slant fade combo route running is outstanding. Again, we'll break it down in a lot more detail tomorrow morning. Let's go back to the 1 o'clock. So let's go NFC South right now. Carolina Panthers get the win 30-27 over the Atlanta Falcons. And now the Panthers are a half game behind the Bucs because the Bucs lose to the Bills. The Panthers make the fourth quarter comeback, get it to overtime, get the win in overtime. Michael Penix Jr. was playing a pretty good game. He goes down. Kirk Cousins has to come in for the Falcons. But I think the story is the Panthers. Bryce Young throwing for 448 yards. I don't know. I hate saying this, Sam. I'm like a body language guy sometimes with Bryce Young. There was something about watching Bryce today that looked different from the rest of the season where he had it. And I just had a feeling he was going to continue to make plays, and they did in the end.
Yeah, I mean, we said these are two of the most confusing teams in the NFL this season heading into this game. So we kind of knew something weird was going to happen. The one thing that I did not expect to be happening was for Bryce Young to put up almost 450 yards of offense. I mean, he has like 1,500 yards of offense coming into this game. This is almost a quarter of his season's total based off this one game. It was nuts. Like he was hurt. Like he got knocked out of the game with an ankle injury. Somebody then fell on his ankle again. Like after he got that ankle injury, he was fighting through like the pain, the injury, and still put up, a career day, a monster performance, a ton of yards, and had them cooking. Like big play to Xavier Legette, Tedero McMillan run after the catch stuff that I was surprised we hadn't seen more of this year. Like this was kind of what we expected to see in the offseason heading into this year for Bryce Young and the Panthers. Like, look, they've got weapons. They've got a good situation. Let's just go make plays.
And then it was Tommy Tremble for 54 yards in overtime to set up the eventual game winner. Incredible play by Tommy Tremble, backup tight end for the Panthers, who's always had it in him. If you're a Tommy Tremble fan, like I am, back to the drawing board for Atlanta, man. That's a tough one. Like season's on the line week to week now, another heartbreaker, and they lose to fall to 3-7, and then Carolina. So now they're sitting there at 6-5, and Tampa Bay goes into Buffalo. They lose. They fall to 6-4. Bills move to 7-3. This one had 9 lead changes in this game. Josh Allen with 3 touchdowns on the ground, 3 through the air. He overcame a couple bad interceptions in there, and the Buffalo offense really came to life when they needed it.
It did. I mean, like in a major way. Like just when they were trailing, Josh Allen put up like 30 points, 5 touchdowns, 300 yards, like all kinds of numbers. Josh Allen breaking records left, right, and center. His cleared Cam Newton in terms of rushing touchdowns for career as a quarterback, and given the age that he is right now, like he's just an absolute cheat code in those red zone areas. They run him on his own as a one-man run game with everybody else blocking in front of him, and he's just unstoppable in those plays.
Yeah, so he was outstanding. I mean, Keon Coleman was a healthy scratch. He was disciplined. So Tyrell Shavers, Gil goes in there. Early touchdown, 43 yards. It's really windy. That was one of the few downfield passes they were able to complete there. Shavers makes some huge plays for the Bills. And again, it was some life that their offense had not shown in a while. They still had the turnovers, but they overcame it with some of the explosives. And then, when they get into the red zone, just Josh Allen taking over.
Yeah, and even the rest of the time, it was like Allen was playing like Caleb Williams in terms of he just went into ad-lib mode. Like, I am going to make every Superman mode. Josh Allen running around behind the line of scrimmage, waiting for something to uncover, hitting a big play all over the place. Like, he just seemed to determine, okay, this is the game where I need to out Baker Mayfield.
It did feel like one of those games, though. Bucs ran the ball extremely well. Rashad White and, of course, Sean Tucker with over 100 yards and 2 scores again. Their run game really kept them in it. And it's like Buffalo's run defense, though as a weakness, does show up. Not every week, but every couple weeks it pops up. And I don't know if this was going to come back to bite. They needed to keep up offensively with what Tampa Bay did. Still don't have that consistency in the pass game over the last few weeks from Baker Mayfield and the Bucs. And now, again, they have to play the Panthers twice still. It's a half-game lead in that division. No one else, Falcons and Saints, way down there now. So it looks like a 2-team race in the South as the Panthers creep back into it. Where else are we going to go here? Let's go Chicago Bears, 19-17 over the Minnesota Vikings. It looked like the week 1 script all over again. Minnesota doing nothing for 3 quarters. J.J. McCarthy, huge throws down the stretch to take the lead. But the Bears get a big kick return and set up the game-winning field goal to win 19-17. Now 7-3 with all these close wins, the Bears.
Yeah, it kind of was almost an identical game script. Like the Vikings offense had been rough. And it wasn't just JJ McCarthy, though he was a big part of it, but like Addison dropped a couple of passes early on plays that should have been made. Justin Jefferson was getting frustrated and pissed off. Like they weren't able to function. McCarthy still holds the ball too long and is inaccurate. That's a bad combination. But then, 2 scores down late in the game, they got the first one instantly, got themselves back into it, end up taking the lead, and then immediately just coughed up a monster kick return, which like that put the Bears into field goal position basically with that kick return. Like at least give the defense a chance to make the stand and hold them on that drive, but they didn't even really get the opportunity.
That was with about 50 seconds left. Right? You got 50 seconds left, holding on.
They had plenty of time to drive, but
yeah, but
you didn't need to.
But yeah, you started off with a 56-yard return that put them right at where'd they end up? Right at the 40. Minnesota's 40. Right. And then Cairo Santos with the 48-yard field goal. They'd already missed the previous field goal. The Bears looked like this was going to be same old Bears. They're blowing the game. They had a chance to go up 2 scores, and they missed the field goal, but they come back and found a way to win. That's the Bears this year, man. They continue to find a way to win. They're sitting here at 7-3. And if Sunday Night Football here, if Detroit, Philadelphia, if that result goes a certain way, if Philadelphia wins, we have the Bears in first place all by themselves in the NFC North. Big game there. Green Bay Packers get the win in the North as well. They're now 6-3-1. They beat the Giants 27-20. We had the full Jameis experience, Sam. We had the magic. We had the comeback. We had the end zone interception. We had all the Jameis. We'll break it all down tomorrow. But the Packers, they needed to take care of business, and they did. Jordan Love making a ton of big plays down the stretch. Christian Watson making big plays. Savion Williams making big plays. They went to the big receivers in Green Bay when they needed a big play.
Yeah, I mean, such a weird game. Like Green Bay was plagued by drops on both sides of the ball. Their offense was dropping everything. Romeo Doubs went back to struggling with those. There was, I can't remember what number they ended up reaching, like 8 or something drops just on offense. And then they must have dropped 3 or 4 Jameis Winston passes on defense as well. Like they were definitely into double digits in terms of dropped footballs on both sides of the ball for them. And consequently, they were dragged into this, street fight that they've not been doing well with the last few weeks. And, the Giants had a shot, and Jameis, like the interception looks awful. As Magnus points out here, Jalen Hyatt, I don't know what he was doing on that route. Basically just stopped. Like the safety's ready for it. It's going to be a contested catch anyway, but Hyatt sees there's a safety there and just stops. He's like, oh, I guess I can't win this pass then. And Jameis ends up basically throwing the ball right to the safety who was making a play on it. Yeah,
I'll go back and rewatch that closer. Wasn't putting full blame on it, but Jameis gives guys opportunities to make plays. Sometimes it goes the other way, obviously. But that was actually a pretty fun back and forth game. I think the Packers, obviously, they needed it to get to 6-3-1, hit some lulls on offense, and they got some big plays. Some of those drops, they weren't just drops. It was like, man, stone-handed, paddle-handed, whatever description you like to use historically, Sam. That was the Packers. Pittsburgh Steelers, 34-12 over the Cincinnati Bengals. It was a close game. Steelers pulled away late. The big story here, first off, Steelers moved to 6-4, hanging around, not giving up first place to the Baltimore Ravens. We'll talk about in a second. But Aaron Rodgers leaves at halftime with a wrist injury. I know he had a hand injury before a game a couple weeks ago. He was shaking it out, was dealing with something. He didn't show up as far as his play, but he landed on it awkwardly and almost took himself out of the game in the first half. So he missed the second half. Mason Rudolph came in, and he sealed the deal with a big touchdown to Kenneth Gainwell. Steelers moved to 6-4. Bengals fall to 3-7.
Yeah, and Rudolph looked pretty solid. Now, it's the Bengals defense. Everybody looks pretty solid against them. But, Rodgers, you're not scared of any kind of colossal drop-off. Oh, man, if we lose Rodgers, we're screwed. Might not be that much difference right now between 40-something-year-old Rodgers and Mason Rudolph.
Sorry to clarify, not his throwing wrist. It was his left wrist.
Right.
And it was enough that, he stayed in for a couple plays at the end of the first half. But I think obviously taking the snap, landing on it again, whatever it is, it was enough to take him out in the second half. Joe Flacco, I meant to send you the message, Sam, so that we had proof, but he did try to throw a pick six early in the game, kind of fired one into double coverage underneath, and then did later on for a pick six. We did get a few more of the Flacco poor decisions in this game, and the Steelers defense played a much better game than they did on the Thursday night game a few weeks back.
And then the other big thing coming out of this game was Jalen Ramsey got ejected for throwing a punch and claimed that he was spat at by Jamar Chase, who denied it to the reporters after the fact. But there's video currently circulating that seems to show it pretty clearly. Now, in this world of AI, I'm not going to go out and say that's 100% definitely a video that happened. I don't know. But currently there is video circulating that absolutely shows him spitting on Jalen Ramsey. And if the NFL concludes that that's what happened, throw the book at him, suspend him, get him out of there. That's obnoxious, and he deserved to be punched for it.
And at the time, it was a huge game, a huge.
It was like
play.
Early in the fourth quarter. I mean, it was important.
The Bengals were still within a score. They were lining up to go for it on 4th and 1. Tried to draw Pittsburgh off sides. They didn't bite, and then that happened, and it just handed the Bengals. I think it was still a 2-score game, but that was Cincinnati's only chance to get back in it was to pick up a first down there, and they were pretty much handed a free 15 because of the Jalen Ramsey punch and ejection.
Yeah, plus Pittsburgh's secondary has already been decimated. Like the announcers are like, they're going to have to seriously figure out how to juggle this now. Remember, Ramsey's the guy that got moved from corner to safety to try and make that work. Now you take him out of the lineup. It's like that was not an insignificant thing to happen. And if that's what happened, that he got spat on and like threw a punch back, I mean, you can't absolve it. He got ejected from the game. It's not like you can come back and take it away, but Jamar Chase should have the book thrown at him for that.
Jacksonville Jaguars bounced back from last week's heartbreaker, 35-6, dominant win over the Los Angeles Chargers. Really a statement game from Jacksonville here, coming off of last week. They still have the playoffs in sight. They, if the season ended today, they would be in. But this was an emphatic one over the Chargers, who fall to 7-4 and now 2 games behind the Broncos in the West.
Yeah, concerning game from the Chargers' point of view, because this is like exactly what you would have been worried about happening. You weren't able to get much going yourselves. You couldn't stop them enough. And then when you kind of were put in an ugly situation, it was just tee off time on Justin Herbert and that offense. And that's kind of the way it went. I don't know that Jacksonville on offense played that amazingly, but as soon as they got the lead, they were just able to get after the Chargers, and Herbert behind that offensive line. It's too much to overcome in those situations.
We touch on a couple games quickly. Again, we'll break them down a bit more. We joked about what we sent to Spain. Turns out we sent an overtime game, though. Miami Dolphins 16-13.
And field goals.
Yeah, we sent a lot of field goals.
They'll be happy about that.
Some ugly football over there. But at least they saw overtime, saw some entertainment, and Dolphins get the win there. They move to 4-7. If they win out, they're still there. It's not all over, right? But if they win out, could still do some damage. The Dolphins, a couple wins in a row here.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a terrible game. It was definitely interesting. I mean, the field goals, whatever. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting game. And I think Miami's pretty much dead, but they've got signs of life. Like they can go and upset a team like Buffalo. We called them, right? They would be the dead whale if they were ever a whale in the first place. They're an exploding walrus. They're capable of knocking teams over, even though their season is effectively dead.
Exploding walrus, Miami Dolphins. Full explanation on tomorrow's show, 7 a.m. Tennessee Titans hung tough, made a fourth quarter comeback. We did see that from Cam Ward, which was good to see. A little comeback against a good Houston Texans defense. Still too much to overcome there. Texans get the win 16-13. They're now 5-5, just like the Chiefs, right? Just like some of these teams lurking around the bottom of the playoff picture. Houston's win last week was huge. They needed to take care of business this week against a 1-win Titans team, and they did, with Davis Mills under center again, with C.J. Stroud still in concussion protocol.
Yeah, just about. I mean, I felt sorry for the Titans because they did hung tough. They fought hard. They took the lead late on. We finally got a couple of sort of big explosive plays from Cam Ward, and then they gave Houston an opportunity, a drive to get back and kick and go ahead. And they took it. They made a couple big plays down that final drive. Nico Collins with a spectacular sideline catch. The first time that the Texans have been back at 500 since before the season started, since 0-0.
Yeah. And they're back, man. They needed this. They took care of it. Again, signs of life from Cam Ward, scrambled a little bit.
Yeah.
But, Titans aren't as good as most of the teams in the league right now. All right, couple more. Let's just touch on Niners 41-22. Dominant outing for them. Brock Purdy's return, really clean. 3 touchdowns, 200 yards. George Kittle with 2 touchdowns, looking great. Niners offense with a strong game here against Arizona. So San Francisco 7-4. Arizona falls to 3-7. Last couple weeks have been rough for Arizona. And Niners, they're going to be hanging around, making things difficult for teams here.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because they went down early. You had the monster kick return from Sky Moore with like the first play of the game, almost gets in, doesn't quite. They score. Immediately they're up basically 2 scores. And you're like, yeah, but San Francisco's defense is so bad. You're not, this isn't over. Hang around. You can put up a ton of points on them. And ironically, they didn't really. Like, they had a couple of touchdowns in there, but like they kept screwing things up. They had 3 turnovers, which ended up including one that was, just at the goal line rather than scoring. You end up losing the ball. Like, had Arizona simply taken care of the football, they could have been in this monster shootout game. Jacoby Brissett putting up this like all-time insane stat sheet, record number of completions, 57 attempts, 450 yards, just like Bryce Young. Problem is they turned the ball over multiple times. And then the other part of it is Brock Purdy back in the lineup. San Francisco's offense still is pretty awesome. So they were able to put up a ton of points, and Arizona wasn't able to keep pace because they kept turning it over.
If you gave me 100 guesses, current quarterbacks only, who's going to break the record for most completions in an NFL football game, I might get to Jacoby Brissett by the 100th guess. 47 completions to break a previous record from Drew Bledsoe and Jared Goff.
Right. Like, think early career Brissett was like the classic, game manager where basically we're barely going to be putting the ball in the air. You're going to be like almost an option quarterback. And all of a sudden he's now like full Jameis Winston. Just drop back, do whatever you like.
None of this made
Air
sense.
Have fun.
He has 57 pass attempts. Didn't get sacked because he usually takes 4 or 5 sacks a game at his normal
pass rush.
But he has 2 interceptions. Usually takes care of the ball from an interception.
I mean, it was a Jameis game.
It was Jacoby with a Jameis game.
This is a box score stat sheet that rightly belongs to Jameis.
Stole Jameis's stats for the day in a losing effort. They were playing from behind for most of the game anyway. But so that's why you complete 47 passes. And let's wrap it up. Baltimore Ravens moved to 5-5. Still now a game behind the Pittsburgh Steelers. 23-16 win over the Cleveland Browns. They win it. Their go-ahead touchdown, a Mark Andrews 35-yard scamper on the fake tush push. A beautiful play by the Ravens. Myles Garrett dominating. 4? Did he finish with 4? Or did he tack on 6 more after 4 sacks for Myles Garrett? And then, of course, the story, Dylan Gabriel comes out with a concussion after going 7 of 10 for 68 yards. Shedeur Sanders comes in, makes his NFL debut.
Yeah, I mean, stop burying the lead. We got Shedeur Sanders got to play regular season football for the first time, as everyone has been clamoring for, and he goes 4 for 16 for 47 yards and an interception, which is a passer rating, if you're into such things, of 13.5. In addition to, how many times was he sacked?
Two sacks, but they were for negative 27 yards.
Yeah.
So we go back
that's
to
a net of
pocket movement.
20 yards as a passer. And it looked like the kind of Shedeur Sanders game that you would expect if you were concerned about what his pro career would look like. I mean, he still takes too many sacks, puts himself under pressure, and runs out of pockets. And it's like, look, it wasn't all his fault. He was put in rough situations. I think the first 3 drives were all 3rd and long or 3rd and medium to long. So, that's when the defense is going to tee off and come after him. But he's still not good in those situations, and that's going to be problematic.
Yeah, us not to overreact. We're not going to overreact to a backup quarterback in his NFL debut. Some people are going to say it's against the Ravens defense, and that could work either way. They were awful early on. They've definitely been better in recent weeks. So let's say it's the Ravens defense. It's a tough situation, but we'll see what happens leading in to next week with Gabriel now in concussion protocol. If we do get a start from Shedeur Sanders, the pocket movement, getting rid of the ball, that's got to get better, right? It has to get better.
And he may play well if he starts next week.
Oh yeah,
gets given the shot. He may play well, but this is the reason that everyone has been like, Dylan Gabriel's terrible. Why haven't they given Shedeur Sanders the keys already? I mean, this is why, right? Like, for however bad you think Dylan Gabriel is, Shedeur Sanders currently is not noticeably better. If anything, might make certain things worse. That's why they haven't. I mean, his average time to throw in this game is like 5 seconds. Like, now, okay, crazy small sample size and, sacks and stuff, but like, like, he can't do that.
Yeah, and Gabriel's doing the opposite, right? He's out like 2.2, throwing the ball
Right.
before receivers are even ready. And, there's a balance in there between the two of them. So we'll see what happens going forward. Ravens, again, they needed to take care of business so that they could sneak back in the AFC North. And they're doing it. They're back to 5-5 after starting 1-5. All right, man. As always, 7 a.m. tomorrow. Check the mic. Hit subscribe so you get that notification. We'll be going live 7 a.m. every single Monday morning. We'll break down all these games in great detail, about 3 hours worth. This is just our instant reaction. Still have a great one tonight, Lions and Eagles. So enjoy Sunday Night Football. Appreciate everybody for being here. We'll see you again tomorrow.